The blue planet Earth spun slowly in space as Admiral Hyunwoo watched from his command ship. Fire covered most of the continents below. The cities that had stood for thousands of years were now burning ruins. His hands shook as he looked at the screens showing the death of his home world. "Sir, the last evacuation ships are ready to jump," reported Captain Minji from her station. Her voice was steady, but tears ran down her face. Around the bridge, other officers tried to stay calm. As they watched their planet die, the alien fleet that destroyed Earth was massive. Thousands of ships filled the space around the planet. They belonged to the Velkari Dominion, a group of alien races that wanted to take Earth for themselves. The humans had fought hard, but their weapons were too weak. Their ships were too slow. They had lost. "How many people did we save?" Hyunwoo asked. "About 50,000 across all the ships, sir," Minji answered. "Out of 8 billion. Hyunwoo closed his eyes. They had saved less than 1% of humanity. The rest were dead or dying on the burning world below. The Velkari had shown no mercy. They killed everyone they found. "Sir, incoming message from the Velkari fleet," said the communications officer. "Put it on screen." A tall alien appeared on the main display. Its skin was gray and its eyes were black. This was Supreme Commander Hyejin of the Velkari forces. She smiled with cruel satisfaction. "Human Admiral," she said in perfect English, "your species has been removed from this galaxy. Your planet now belongs to us. Leave and never return, or we will hunt down your remaining ships." Hyunwoo stood up from his chair. He looked directly at the alien commander. His voice was calm and cold when he spoke. "We will remember this day," he said. "We will remember what you did to our home. And one day we will return." Hyejin laughed. "With 50,000 survivors? Your species is finished, human. In a few generations, you will all be dead." "We will see," Hyunwoo replied. Then he cut the transmission. He turned to his crew. "All ships, prepare for jump. We leave now." The human fleet disappeared into the darkness between stars. Behind them, Earth continued to burn. That was 500,000 years ago. Captain Minji of the Velkari Scout Service flew her ship toward the dead colony world. Her current mission was simple: find out why the mining colony on Kelos 7 had stopped sending reports. The planet appeared on her screens as a brown ball of rock. The colony should have been visible from orbit. Instead, she saw nothing but empty land where the settlement used to be. "This is strange," she said to her crew. "Scan for life signs." "No life detected, Captain," reported her scanner officer. "But I am reading some unusual energy patterns." Minji frowned. "What kind of patterns?" "Unknown, sir. The energy signature does not match any known technology in our databases." This was the 5th colony that had gone silent in the past month. Each time, the Velkari sent a ship to investigate. Each time, they found empty worlds with strange energy readings. No bodies, no signs of battle. The people had simply vanished. "Take us down to the surface," Minji ordered. The ship landed near where the main colony building had been. Minji and 2 guards put on their protective suits and walked outside. The ground was smooth and clean, as if the buildings had been carefully removed. "Captain, look at this," one of the guards called out. Minji walked over to where the guard was pointing. In the smooth ground, someone had carved words in the old human language. She had studied human history in the military academy. Most Velkari officers had to learn about the species they had defeated. The words said, "We remember." A chill ran down Minji's spine. Humans had been extinct for hundreds of thousands of years. Everyone knew that. The few survivors had died out, long ago, in the empty spaces between stars. "Sir, we should report this," the other guard said. Minji nodded. But as they walked back to their ship, she could not shake the feeling that something was watching them from the empty sky. On a hidden world far from Velkari space, Fleet Commander Taeho stood before a massive window. Outside, he could see the greatest war fleet ever built by any species in the galaxy. The ships stretched as far as his eyes could see. Some were as large as cities. Others were sleek and fast like hunting animals. All of them were painted in the deep black of space, making them almost invisible against the stars. "Sir, the final preparations are complete," reported Admiral Sunho, his second in command. All fleets are ready for deployment. Taeho nodded slowly. Behind them, Dr. So Young worked at her computers. She was the chief strategist for what they called the Return War. For 500,000 years, humanity had planned for this moment. How many ships do we have now? Taeho asked. 40 million combat vessels across all classes, Sunho replied. Plus support ships, the number reaches 100 million. And crew, 80 billion humans, sir. All volunteers for the mission. Taeho smiled grimly. When their ancestors had fled Earth with 50,000 people, everyone thought humanity was finished. But humans were good at surviving. They had found empty worlds in dark corners of the galaxy. They had built new homes. They had children. And they had never forgotten what the Velkhari had done. Dr. So Young, what is the status of our intelligence network? He asked. The doctor looked up from her screens. Our agents have been in place for over 1,000 years, sir. We know everything about Velkhari military strength, their trade routes, their colony worlds. We have people in their government, their military, even their intelligence services. And they still do not know we exist? They believe we died out long ago. Their history books say the last humans were seen about 400,000 years ago. They think we failed to survive in space. Taeho walked to another window. This one showed the construction yards where new ships were still being built. Humans had spent 500,000 years preparing for war. They had developed new technologies. They had learned to harvest energy from black holes. They had created weapons that could destroy entire star systems. But most importantly, they had learned patience. Sir, Sunho said quietly, are you sure about this? Once we begin, there will be no going back. Taeho turned to face his officers. His eyes were hard as steel. They killed our world, he said. They murdered 8 billion innocent people. They laughed at us as we ran. Did you think we would forget? No, sir, Sunho replied. I just wanted to be certain. I am certain, Taeho said. Signal all fleet commanders. Operation Homecoming begins now. Across the hidden shipyards, millions of human warships began to move. The ghost fleet that the Velkhari thought was a legend was about to become their worst nightmare. The return war had begun. Admiral Yuna of the Velkhari Navy stared at the reports on her desk. In the past month, 12 patrol fleets had simply disappeared. No distress calls, no wreckage. They were there one day, gone the next. This makes no sense, she said to her aide, Commander Unji. How does an entire fleet vanish without a trace? Perhaps they encountered a new hostile species, Yunji suggested. The galaxy is large. There could be civilizations we have not yet discovered. Yuna frowned. The Velkhari, Dominion controlled a quarter of the galaxy. They had maps of every star system in their territory. They knew about every intelligent species for thousands of light years in all directions. Send the 7th Battle Group to investigate the last known position of the missing fleets, she ordered. Tell Admiral Kyung-soo to be careful. Whatever is out there has powerful weapons. Yunji saluted and left to deliver the orders. Yuna turned back to her reports, but she could not concentrate. Something about this situation felt wrong, very wrong. Captain Dong-min guided his ship through the empty space between stars. The silent vengeance was invisible to all known detection methods. Human technology had advanced far beyond what any other species could imagine. Contact on sensors, Captain, reported his tactical officer. Velkhari Battle Group, 12 ships total. Dong-min smiled coldly. Perfect. Let me see them. The main screen showed the Velkhari ships moving in formation. They were searching for something, their sensors sweeping the area around them. They had no idea that death was watching them from just a few kilometers away. Orders, sir? Asked his weapons officer. Prepare phase cannons, Dong-min said. Target their command ship first. The phase cannons were one of humanity's greatest achievements. The weapons could shift their energy beams partially out of normal space. They passed through shields and armor like they were not there. No defense could stop them. Firing, the weapons officer announced. A thin beam of blue light reached out from the silent vengeance. It touched the largest Velkhari ship for just a moment. The alien vessel immediately went dark. Its engines stopped. Its lights went out. The ship began to drift. What happened to them? The tactical officer asked. The phase beam disrupted their main power core, Dong-min explained. The ship is dead, but the crew is alive. They will have a few hours of emergency power to think about what just happened to them. On the screen, the other Velkari ships were panicking. They fired their weapons, in all directions, trying to hit an enemy they could not see. Their shots passed harmlessly through empty space. Shall we destroy the rest, sir? No, Dongmin said. One is enough for now. Let them report what they saw. Fear is more valuable than death at this stage of the operation. The silent vengeance moved away, still invisible. Behind them, the Velkari ships tried desperately to help their damaged companion. They would never know what had attacked them. Dr. So Young sat in the war room on New Terra, the hidden capital of the human empire. Holographic displays showed the positions of every Velkari fleet in known space. Red markers indicated where human ships had struck. The psychological phase is working perfectly, she reported to Fleet Commander Tae-ho. Velkari fleet commanders are becoming paranoid. They are pulling their ships back from forward positions. Good, Tae-ho replied. Fear will make them weak before we reveal our true strength. So Young had studied alien psychology for 300 years. She understood how the Velkari mind worked. They were aggressive and confident when they felt strong, but when faced with an unknown threat, they became cautious and afraid. Sir, we are receiving reports from our agents inside Velkari space, said Communications Officer Young Sik. Their government is starting to panic. Some officials are suggesting that an ancient enemy has returned. Tae-ho raised an eyebrow. Ancient enemy? They have old legends about a species that vanished long ago, So Young explained. A species that swore revenge before they disappeared. Some Velkari historians think these legends might refer to humans. Interesting. Are they taking these legends seriously? Not yet, So Young said. But if we continue the current strategy, they will begin to wonder. Young Sik looked up from his console. Sir, Captain Dongmin is requesting permission to engage another Velkari patrol. Granted, Tae-ho said, but tell him to make it more obvious this time. Let them see our ships. Let them know they are being hunted. Captain Jae-won commanded one of the newer human destroyers. His ship, the Wrathful Memory, was built specifically for terror operations. Unlike the stealth ships, it was designed to be seen. Target acquired, his sensor operator announced. Velkari heavy cruiser with escort vessels. Decloak the ship, Jae-won ordered. The Wrathful Memory shimmered into visibility directly in front of the Velkari formation. The human ship was unlike anything in the known galaxy. Its hull seemed to be alive, pulsing with organic-looking patterns. Strange energy flowed across its surface like blood through veins. On the Velkari command ship, alarms began screaming. Unknown. Vessel, identify yourself, came the transmission from the alien captain. Jae-won opened a channel. I am Captain Jae-won of the Human Navy. You are trespassing in space that once belonged to Earth. There was a long silence from the Velkari ship. Impossible, the alien captain finally replied. Humans are extinct. Are we? Jae-won asked. He turned to his weapons officer. Demonstrate our displeasure. The Wrathful Memory fired a single shot. The beam passed through the Velkari ship's shields without slowing down. It melted a perfectly round hole through the vessel's hull, missing the reactor by just a few meters. This is your only warning, Jae-won transmitted. Leave this system immediately and tell your superiors that humanity has returned. The Velkari ships fled as fast as their engines could carry them. Back on New Terra, the human leadership watched. Reports flood in from across Velkari space. Videos of the Wrathful Memory were spreading through their communication networks. Panic was beginning to set in among their military commanders. Phase 1 is complete, Dr. So Young announced. The Velkari now know that humans still exist. They are afraid, but they do not yet understand the scope of our capabilities. Fleet Commander Tae-ho nodded with satisfaction. How long before they organize a proper response? Based on their historical patterns, approximately 2 weeks. So Young replied. They will gather their fleets and attempt to hunt us down. Perfect, Tae-ho said. That will give us time to position our forces for Phase 2. Admiral Sun-ho looked concerned. Sir, once we reveal our true strength, the galaxy will never be the same. Are we prepared for that responsibility? Tae-ho was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke in a voice filled with 500,000 years of grief and anger. They made their choice when they burned our world, he said. Now they will live with the consequences. Signal all fleets. Prepare for full deployment. The ghost. War was about to become very real. Supreme Chancellor Haya Jin of the Velkari Dominion sat in her command center on the capital world of Velkos Prime. Around her, military advisors argued loudly about the human threat. Reports of ghost ships were coming in from across their territory. Impossible, General Dong Hyun insisted. We destroyed the humans completely. There were only 50,000 survivors, and that was 500,000 years ago. Then explain these attacks, Admiral Yuna countered. She activated a holographic display showing footage from the encounter with the wrathful memory. This ship uses technology we have never seen before. Hae Jin studied the recording carefully. The human vessel looked more like a living creature than a machine. Its hull pulsed with strange energy patterns. When it fired, the beams seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Could this be some kind of trick? She asked. Perhaps another species is pretending to be human to frighten us. I do not think so, said Chief Scientist Minwoo. I have analyzed the energy signatures from these attacks. The technology is completely alien to our understanding. It would take millions of years to develop such capabilities. Exactly, Hae Jin said. Which proves these cannot be the same humans we defeated. Those primitive creatures could barely fly between planets. Suddenly, alarms began ringing throughout the command center. Officer Jiwon at the sensor station looked terrified. Ma'am, unknown ship approaching the planet, she reported. It just appeared on our sensors. What do you mean, appeared? It was not there. Then it was there. No transition phase. No emergence from hyperspace. It simply materialized. Hae Jin felt a chill run through her body. Show me. The main screen displayed the space around Velkos Prime. A single ship hung motionless near their orbital defenses. It was massive, at least 3 kilometers long. Like the ship in the previous recordings, it seemed to be alive. Energy flowed across its surface in hypnotic patterns. Are our defenses responding? Hae Jin asked. The orbital platforms are targeting the vessel, but their computers cannot get a lock, Jiwon replied. It is as if the ship exists partially outside normal space. Incoming transmission, announced the communications officer. Put it through. The image that appeared on the screen made Hae Jin's blood freeze. It was definitely a human male, but he was unlike any human from the old records. His eyes seemed to glow with inner light. Strange markings covered his skin. He looked more like a god than a mortal being. I am Captain Jae-won of the Human Imperial Navy, he said in perfect Velkari. I request an audience with your leadership. General Dong Hyun stepped forward angrily. You have no right to demand anything, human. Your species is extinct. Jae-won smiled, and the expression was more frightening than any threat. Am I extinct, General? Is my ship a ghost? Are the 40 million vessels of our war fleet merely dreams? The command center fell silent. 40 million ships. That was impossible. The entire Velkari Navy only had 2 million vessels. You are lying, Hae Jin said, though her voice shook. Supreme Chancellor, Jae-won replied politely. Would you like me to prove our capabilities? Your orbital defense grid has very impressive shields. Do not threaten us, Admiral Yuna warned. We have the strongest military in the galaxy. You had the strongest military, Jae-won corrected. Watch and learn. On the screen they could see weapons emerging from the human ship. The devices looked nothing like conventional cannons. They seemed to be made of liquid metal that flowed and shifted constantly. Firing sequence initiated, Jae-won announced calmly. Beams of impossible light reached out from the human vessel. They passed through the orbital platform's shields like they were not there. But instead of destroying the stations, the beams simply shut them down. One by one, every defense platform around Velkos Prime went dark. The entire orbital grid was disabled in less than 30 seconds. How? Hae Jin whispered. Phase weapons, Jae-won explained. They operate in 11 dimensions simultaneously. Your shields only exist in 3 dimensions. They cannot protect you from us. Minister So Jin, the Dominion's intelligence chief, leaned forward. What do you want, human? I want to deliver a message from the human people to the Velkari government, Jae-won said. 500,000 years ago, you attacked our world without warning. You murdered 8 billion innocent people. You laughed as our survivors fled into exile. That was ancient history, Hyojin protested. For you, perhaps. We have longer memories. Jaewon's expression became cold as deep space. We spent 500,000 years preparing for this moment. We developed new technologies. We built new fleets. We evolved beyond your ability to comprehend. What do you want? Hyojin asked again. Justice? Jaewon replied simply. You took our world. Now we will take yours. General Dong-hyun laughed, harshly. One ship against our entire fleet? You are insane. One ship? Jaewon raised an eyebrow. Who said anything about one ship? The space around Velko's prime began to shimmer. Like ripples on a pond, more human vessels appeared. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. Each ship was unique, but all shared the same living organic appearance. Impossible, Admiral Yuna breathed. This is just the advance guard, Jaewon explained. Would you like to see our main battle fleet? No, Hyojin said quickly. What are your terms? Simple. Unconditional surrender of the Velkari Dominion. All worlds that participated in the destruction of Earth will be occupied. All military vessels will be destroyed. Your government will be dissolved. Never, General Dong-hyun snarled. We will fight to the last ship. Jaewon looked sad. That is what we expected you to say. Very well. You have 24 hours to evacuate your civilians from military installations. After that, we begin the cleansing. Wait, Hyojin called out. Perhaps we can negotiate. There is nothing to negotiate, Jaewon replied. You showed no mercy to our children when you burned Earth. Why should we show mercy to yours? The transmission ended. On the screen, the human fleet continued to grow larger. Ships kept appearing until the space around the planet was thick with them. How many vessels do you count? Hyojin asked her sensor operator. Over 50,000, ma'am. And more are still appearing. Defense Minister Hwa Young spoke up from her station. Ma'am, I am receiving reports from across the Dominion. Human fleets are appearing at every major world simultaneously. They are everywhere. Hyojin slumped in her chair. 50,000 years of Velkari dominance was ending in a single day. The humans they thought were extinct had returned as gods of war. Send a message to all our allies, she ordered weakly. Tell them humanity has returned. Tell them we need help. But even as she gave the order, Hyojin knew it was too late. The humans had spent 500,000 years planning this moment. They would not be stopped by anything the galaxy could throw at them. The age of Velkari power was over. The age of human dominance was about to begin. Admiral Sun Ho stood on the bridge of the Earth's Vengeance, the flagship of the first human fleet. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of 40 million human warships across the galaxy. The greatest military force ever assembled, was ready for battle. Sir, all fleets report ready for engagement, reported Captain Min-soo, his communications officer. We have forces in position around every major Velkari world. Sun Ho nodded. Through the massive windows of his command ship, he could see part of his fleet stretching into the distance. Each vessel was the size of a city. Their hulls were black, as the void between stars, but energy patterns flowed across them like flowing rivers of light. What is the status of the primary weapon systems? He asked. All black hole generators are online, replied Chief Engineer Kyung-ho. The quantum phase cannons are charged and ready. The dimensional torpedoes are loaded. Sun Ho smiled grimly. Each of his ships was powered by a controlled black hole. The energy output was beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. A single human battleship could destroy an entire Velkari fleet without effort. Sir, incoming transmission from High Command, Min-soo announced. The face of Fleet Commander Tae-ho appeared on the screen. Behind him, Sun Ho could see the massive command center on New Terra where human strategy was planned. Admiral Sun Ho, you are authorized to begin Phase 3, Tae-ho said. Show them what 500,000 years of human engineering can accomplish. Understood, sir. What are the rules of engagement? Destroy their military completely. But remember, we are not monsters like they were. Protect civilian populations when possible. Yes, sir. Sun Ho turned to his crew. All ships, prepare for battle. Target designation, Nexus Prime. Nexus Prime was the strongest Velkari military base in the galaxy. It was home to their main battle fleet and protected by the most advanced defenses they had. If the humans could break Nexus Prime, the rest of the Dominion would fall like dominoes. On Velkos Prime, Supreme Chancellor Haya Jin watched the reports coming in from across her territory. Human fleets had appeared at over 1,000 worlds simultaneously. The coordination was perfect. The timing was exact. "How is this possible?" she asked Defense Minister Hua Young. "How did they move so many ships without us detecting them?" "I do not know, ma'am," Hua Young replied. "Our intelligence services had no warning. Our sensor networks detected nothing until the ships simply appeared." General Dong Hyun was studying tactical displays. "Ma'am, the human fleet compositions make no sense. Some of their ships are larger than space stations. Others seem to be made of pure energy. How do they even function? Have we received any response from our allies?" Hye Jin asked. Minister So Jin shook her head sadly. "The Krellian Empire, the Thaxan Republic, and the Zareth Collective have all declared neutrality. They refuse to fight humans." "Cowards," Dong Hyun snarled. "No," Hye Jin said quietly. "They are smart. They remember what happened to species that fought humans in the past. Intelligence reports had been coming in all day. Human agents had been active in every major government for centuries. They had stolen technology, learned military secrets, and identified weaknesses. The humans knew everything about their enemies, but their enemies knew nothing about them. "Ma'am, urgent report from Nexus Prime," announced Communications Officer Ji-Won. "Admiral Kyung-soo says the human fleet there is beyond anything in our databases. Put him through." Admiral Kyung-soo's face appeared on the screen. Behind him, alarms were ringing and officers were running between stations. "Supreme Chancellor, you need to see this," he said. "The human fleet. It is impossible." The view switched to external cameras, showing the space around Nexus Prime. What Hye Jin saw made her heart stop. The human fleet was not just large. It was overwhelming. Ships the size of moons floated in perfect formation. Smaller vessels moved between them like schools of fish. In the center of the formation was something that defied description, a ship so large it seemed to bend space around itself. "How many vessels?" Hye Jin whispered. "We stopped counting at 100,000, Kyung-soo replied. "Ma'am, each of their capital ships is larger than our entire space station. We cannot fight this. You are the strongest fortress in Velkari space," General Dong Hyun protested. "You have 50,000 ships and the most powerful weapons in our arsenal." "It does not matter," Kyung-soo said. "Watch this." The view focused on one of the human ships. It was about average size for their fleet, only 3 kilometers long. As they watched, the vessel fired a single shot at an asteroid near the station. The asteroid simply disappeared. Not destroyed, it ceased to exist entirely. "What kind of weapon was that?" Hua Young asked. "We do not know," Kyung-soo replied. "The energy readings do not match anything in our science database." Dr. Hua Young sat in her laboratory on New Terra, monitoring the battle from a scientific perspective. She had spent 3 centuries studying alien biology and psychology. Her job was to understand how their enemies would react to overwhelming force. "The Velkari are beginning to panic," she reported to the command staff. "Their military doctrine assumes technological parity with their enemies. They have no strategy for fighting a superior force." On her screens, she could see biological readings from Velkari personnel across their fleet. Heart rates were elevated. Stress hormones were flooding their systems. Many were already showing signs of psychological breakdown. "Doctor, explain to me how our technology became so advanced," requested Admiral Sun Ho over the communication link. "I understand we had time to develop, but this seems beyond what should be possible." Hua Young smiled. "Admiral, when your species faces extinction, evolution accelerates. We did not just build better ships. We rebuilt ourselves," she gestured to her own body. Like all modern humans, she had been enhanced far beyond baseline humanity. Her brain could process information thousands of times faster than an unmodified human. Her body could survive in the vacuum of space. She would live for millions of years. "We took the best aspects of every species we encountered," she continued. "Krellian regeneration, Thaxon mental abilities, Zareth energy manipulation. We became something new. And our ships? Grown, not built. Each vessel is a living organism enhanced with artificial intelligence. They can repair themselves, adapt to new threats, and evolve during combat. At Nexus Prime, the battle began. Admiral Kyung-Soo ordered his fleet to attack first. 50,000 Valkyrie warships opened fire simultaneously. Energy beams and missiles filled the space between the fleets. The human response was devastating. In its simplicity, a barrier of pure energy appeared in front of their formation. Every Valkyrie weapon struck this barrier and simply stopped. The energy was absorbed and redirected back at the attackers. Half the Valkyrie fleet was destroyed by their own weapons. Impossible, Kyung-Soo breathed. Then the humans began their attack. Beams of light reached out from their ships. But these were not normal weapons. Each beam passed through multiple dimensions, striking targets from angles that should not exist. Valkyrie ships found their hulls breached by weapons that came from inside their own defensive shields. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it was over, every Valkyrie ship was either destroyed or disabled. The mighty fortress of Nexus Prime was a floating wreck. The humans had not lost a single vessel. "This is Admiral Sunho to Nexus Prime," came the transmission. "Do you surrender?" Kyung-Soo looked around his ruined command center. Half his crew was dead. The rest were wounded or in shock. "We surrender," he said quietly. News of the defeat at Nexus Prime spread across the galaxy within hours. The strongest Valkyrie force had been crushed without causing any damage to the human fleet. On Velkos Prime, Supreme Chancellor Hyojin called an emergency session of the Dominion Council. "The situation is clear," she announced to the assembled leaders. "We cannot fight the humans with conventional warfare. They are too advanced, too powerful." "Then what do you suggest?" asked General Dong-hyun. "We have one option left," Hyojin said. "The Planet Killer." The room fell silent. The Planet Killer was the ultimate weapon of the Valkyrie Dominion. It was the same device they had used to destroy Earth 500,000 years ago. "Ma'am," Minister Sojin protested, "that weapon is untested against their technology. What if it fails? Then we are no worse off than we are now," Hyojin replied. "But if it succeeds, we can destroy their main fleet in a single shot." The vote was unanimous. The Planet Killer would be activated. None of them knew that human agents had been aware of the weapon for centuries, or that humanity had been preparing specifically for this moment. The final phase of the war was about to begin. Commander Young-sik of the Human Psychological Operations Division sat in his command center aboard the Mindbreaker. His ship was different from the combat vessels. It was designed not to destroy bodies, but to destroy hope. "Sir, we are receiving reports from across Valkyrie space," reported Lieutenant Yoon-soo. "News of the Nexus Prime defeat has reached every major world. Their civilian populations are beginning to panic." Young-sik nodded with satisfaction. Fear was spreading faster then. Their ships could travel. The psychological impact of humanity's return was more powerful than any weapon. "Begin Operation Memory," he ordered. "Upload the recordings to every communication network in Valkyrie space." "Yes, sir." Across the galaxy, every television screen, computer display, and communication device suddenly showed the same image. It was Earth, 500,000 years ago. The blue planet hung peacefully in space, unaware of what was coming. Then the Valkyrie fleet appeared. The recording showed everything. The surprise attack on defenseless human colonies. The bombing of cities full of civilians, children running through burning streets. The final destruction of Earth itself. But these were not the old, grainy recordings from human archives. These were perfect, high-definition images taken by human ships that had been invisible to Valkyrie sensors. Every detail was crystal clear. The galaxy watched in horror as Supreme Commander Hyojin of the ancient Valkyrie forces laughed while Earth burned. Her words echoed across 1,000 worlds. "Your species is finished, human. In a few generations, you will all be dead." Then the recording changed. It showed the human fleet as it existed today. Millions of ships, each one a masterpiece of technology beyond imagination. The contrast was stunning. "This is what you created," said a calm human voice over the images. "This is what 500,000 years of hate has built. You thought we would die quietly in the dark. You were wrong." On the Krellian homeworld, Emperor Dae-hyun watched the broadcast with growing terror. The Krellian Empire had been allies of the Valkyrie during the Earth War. They had provided ships and troops for the attack. "How many of our vessels participated in the Earth assault?" he asked his military advisor. "Approximately 5,000 ships, Your Majesty," General Hee-jin replied, "plus ground forces for the final occupation." Dae-hyun felt sick. The human recording had shown Krellian soldiers among those who destroyed human cities. If the humans remembered everything, then the Krellian Empire was doomed. "Sir, incoming transmission," announced his communications officer. "It is from the human fleet." "Put it through." A human face appeared on the screen. Unlike the previous commanders, this one looked almost normal. He could have been any human from the old days, before the enhancement and evolution. "Emperor Dae-hyun," the human said politely. "I am Captain So-jin of the Human Navy. We need to discuss your empire's future." "What do you want?" Dae-hyun asked, though he already knew. "Your species participated in the genocide of humanity," So-jin replied calmly. "According to our laws, this makes your empire subject to conquest and occupation." "That was 500,000 years ago," General Hee-jin protested. "Everyone involved is long dead." "The individuals are dead," So-jin agreed. "But your government continues to exist. Your empire still benefits from the territory you took from human colonies. Justice demands payment." "What kind of payment?" "Complete surrender. Your military will be dissolved. Your government will be replaced by human administrators. Your people will live under our rule." Emperor Dae-hyun was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked, "What if we refuse?" So-jin's expression did not change. "Then you will share the fate of those who destroyed our world." The transmission ended. Within hours, similar messages were being received by every government that had participated in the Earth War. The human demands were the same for all of them: surrender or die. Dr. Hua Young monitored the psychological collapse of Valkyrie civilization from her laboratory. Biosensors throughout their space showed massive increases in stress, depression, and anxiety among their populations. "The civilian morale is breaking completely," she reported to Fleet Commander Tae-ho. "Suicide rates have increased by 300%. Many are fleeing to neutral worlds." "What about their military?" Tae-ho asked. "Worse. Ship captains are abandoning their posts. Entire fleets are surrendering without fighting. Some are even requesting asylum with human forces." Tae-ho nodded grimly. This was exactly what they had planned. The Valkyrie were a proud, aggressive species. They could handle defeat in battle, but they could not handle the knowledge that they had created their own destroyer. "Sir, urgent report," interrupted Communications Officer Young-sik. "The Valkyrie are activating their planet killer weapon." "Ah," Tae-ho said calmly. "Right on schedule. Where are they targeting?" "The new Terra system, sir. They believe it is our main base." "How long until the weapon is charged?" "Approximately 6 hours." Tae-ho smiled. "Perfect. That gives us time to prepare the demonstration." On Velko's Prime, Supreme Chancellor Hee-jin watched the planet killer weapon power up. The massive device was hidden inside a hollow moon in the outer system. It had taken 50 years to build and had never been used since the destruction of Earth. "Weapon charging at 70%, reported Chief Scientist Min Woo. "All systems are functioning normally." "How powerful is this weapon?" asked General Dong-hyun. "It can crack a planet in half," Min Woo replied proudly. "The energy beam will destroy everything in the target system, including any ships." Hae-jin felt hope for the first time in days. The human fleet was powerful, but they were still made of matter and energy. Nothing could survive a direct hit from the planet killer. "Sir, the weapon is fully charged," Min Woo announced. "Ready to fire on your command." "Fire!" Hae-jin ordered. The planet killer unleashed its fury. A beam of pure destruction raced across space toward the human fleet. It was the same type of weapon that had destroyed Earth, magnified 1,000 times. The beam reached the new Terra system in minutes, and something impossible happened. The energy beam struck an invisible barrier around the human fleet and simply stopped. The massive destructive force was held perfectly motionless in space, like a frozen lightning bolt. "What is happening?" Hyojin demanded. I do not know," Minwoo stammered. "The weapon fired correctly, but something is blocking it." On the screen, they could see the human fleet beginning to move. One ship, larger than the others, positioned itself directly in front of the stopped energy beam. Then the ship began to absorb the beam. The planet killer's energy was being drawn into the human vessel like water into a sponge. Within minutes, the entire attack had been consumed. "Impossible," General Dong Hyun whispered. Then the human ship fired back. The returned beam was not just the planet killer's energy. It was that energy combined with the ship's own power, magnified and focused. The beam raced back toward its source faster than the original attack. The planet killer weapon was completely destroyed. The artificial moon that housed it was vaporized. The explosion was visible from Velkos Prime itself. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human fleet," announced the communications officer. Captain J. Wan appeared on the screen again. Behind him, they could see the bridge of his ship, where the absorbed energy was still flowing through organic-looking conduits. "Thank you for the energy donation," he said politely. "Our ships were running low on power after traveling so far. You have been most helpful." "How?" Hyejin asked weakly. "Simple physics," Jaewon replied. "Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. You created the force that destroyed our world. We created a force capable of absorbing and redirecting planet-killing energy. It seemed like a reasonable precaution." The truth hit Hyejin like a physical blow. The humans had not just built weapons to fight the planet killer. They had built their entire fleet specifically to counter it. For 500,000 years they had planned for this exact moment. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now you surrender," Jaewon said simply. "Your ultimate weapon has failed. Your allies have abandoned you. Your people are fleeing in terror. You have no options left. And if we refuse?" Jaewon's expression became sad. "Then we will demonstrate what happens when humans are forced to use their ultimate weapons. I promise you, Chancellor, you do not want to see what we built to replace the worlds we lost." The transmission ended. On Velkos Prime, the government of the Velkari Dominion sat in stunned silence. Their greatest weapon had not only failed, it had been turned against them effortlessly. The war was over. They had lost before it truly began. All that remained was to accept defeat and hope that human mercy was more generous than Velkari mercy had been 500,000 years ago. Admiral Kyung-ho stood on the bridge of his flagship as it entered orbit around Velkos Prime. The planet below looked peaceful from space, but he knew that its people were living in terror. The Velkari Dominion had officially surrendered 3 days ago. "Sir, the planetary government is requesting permission to begin evacuation procedures," reported his communications officer. "Granted," Kyung-ho replied. "Remind them that they have 72 hours to relocate their population to the designated worlds." This was not revenge, he reminded himself. This was justice. The Velkari leadership would be relocated to worlds where they could be properly supervised. The civilians would be safe, but they would live under human oversight. "Admiral, incoming transmission from Fleet Command," announced Lieutenant Min-soo. The face of Fleet Commander Tae-ho appeared on the screen. "Admiral Kyung-ho, report on the occupation status." "All major Velkari worlds are under our control, sir. Resistance has been minimal. Most of their military has surrendered voluntarily. Casualties surprisingly low on both sides. Their forces seem to have lost the will to fight after the planet killer incident." Tae-ho nodded. "Good. The goal was never to destroy them, only to remove their ability to threaten others. What about their allies?" "The Krellian Empire, Thaxan Republic, and Zareth Collective have all signed surrender agreements. They are cooperating fully with our occupation forces." "Excellent. Begin Phase 4 immediately." Engineer Min-soo stood on the surface of what had once been Earth. For the first time in 500,000 years, humans walked on their ancestral home. But this was not the burned wasteland the Velkari had left behind. Human technology had restored the planet perfectly. New oceans filled the ancient basins. Forests covered the continents exactly as they had existed before the war. Even the weather patterns had been recreated. "It is beautiful," said Dr. So Young, who had come to oversee the restoration project. Our records were so complete that we could rebuild everything down to individual trees. Minsu nodded as he watched the first human colonists step off their transport ships. These were not the enhanced humans of the fleet. They were baseline humans, carefully preserved in genetic banks for this moment. "Will they be safe here?" he asked. "Living as normal humans instead of enhanced ones?" "They will be protected," So Young assured him. "The enhanced humans will serve as guardians. But it is important that some of us remain as we were originally, to remember what we are fighting to preserve." Above them, the sky was filled with human ships. Not warships this time, but construction vessels and colony transports. Humanity was coming home. Captain So-Jin walked through the halls of what had once been the Velkari Council building. Now it served as the headquarters for the human administration of former Dominion territories. The building was full of activity as human administrators worked to establish new governments on 1,000 worlds. But these were not conquering armies. They were teachers, engineers, doctors, and diplomats. "Sir, we have completed the census of Velkari civilians," reported Administrator Hua Young. "Total population is approximately 800 billion across all their worlds." "That is a lot of people to manage," So-Jin observed. "Are they cooperating?" "Better than expected. Many seem relieved that the war is over. Their government had been preparing them for total destruction. Finding out they will be allowed to live normal lives has actually improved morale." So-Jin was not surprised. The Velkari leadership had told their people that humans were monsters who would kill everyone. Instead, they found humans who were stern but fair. Children could still go to school. Families were kept together. Only the military and political leadership faced serious consequences. "What about the war criminals?" he asked. "We have identified approximately 50,000 individuals who directly participated in the Earth genocide. They are being held for trial. And the rest of their government? Permanent exile to monitored worlds. They will live comfortably but under supervision." So-Jin nodded. It was a far more merciful fate than the Velkari had given to humanity. On New Terra, Fleet Commander Tae-ho stood before the Council of Species. Representatives from every major civilization in the galaxy had come to hear humanity's plans for the future. "The age of expansion through conquest is over," he announced. "Humanity will serve as the protector of peaceful species and the judge of aggressive ones." Ambassador Yun Ho of the neutral Altarian Federation raised his hand. "What, gives humans the right to rule the galaxy?" Tae-ho smiled grimly. "Power gives us the right, but wisdom guides how we use it. We have seen what happens when aggressive species are allowed to grow unchecked. We will not permit another Earth to happen to anyone." "What about species that wish to remain independent?" asked Representative Jin Woo of the Centauran Alliance. "Independence is earned through peaceful behavior," Tae-ho replied. "Species that prove they can coexist without threatening others will be left alone. Those that show aggressive tendencies will be supervised." Dr. Hua Young stepped forward to address the assembly. "We are not interested in ruling your daily lives. We want to prevent wars, protect the weak, and ensure that no species faces genocide again." "How can we trust you?" demanded Minister Yun-ji of the Rigelian Confederacy. "You have the power to destroy us all." "Because we could have destroyed you already," Tae-ho answered simply. "If we wanted to rule through fear, we would have started with mass executions. Instead, we offer partnership to those who prove themselves trustworthy." The debate continued for hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. Humanity had the power to enforce their will, and their terms were reasonable. One by one, the galactic governments agreed to the new order. Captain Dong Min returned to the restored Earth 5 years after the end of the war. He had been part of the first wave of attacks, striking from the shadows to terrorize Velkari forces. Now he came in peace, to see his ancestral home. The planet was thriving. Human cities rose where the old ones had stood, but they were built with harmony between technology and nature. Vast parks connected urban areas. Clean energy powered everything. "It is not exactly as it was," observed Captain Jae-won, who had come with him. "But it is perhaps better." "The old Earth had pollution and conflict," Dongmin agreed. "This version has learned from our mistakes." They walked through the memorial park, that marked the site of the old capital city. Holographic displays showed images of Earth before the war, during the destruction, and after the restoration. The message was clear: never forget, but also never repeat. "Sir, there is something you should see," said Park Ranger Kyung-soo, a baseline human who guided visitors through the memorial. He led them to a special display that showed the Velkari surrender ceremony. Supreme Chancellor Hye-jin was there, signing the documents that ended her people's independence. But her words were what made the display significant. "I ask for the forgiveness of the human people," her recorded voice said. "My ancestors committed a terrible crime. I hope that my people can find redemption under human guidance." "She was more gracious in defeat than I expected," Jaewon observed. "Fear makes some people cruel," Dongmin replied, "but it makes others humble. Perhaps there is hope for her species yet." 10 years after the war ended, Admiral Sunho visited the Velkari reservation world of New Velkos. The planet was beautiful, with carefully planned cities and abundant resources. The Velkari people seemed content, though they lived under human supervision. "How are they adjusting?" he asked Governor Young-sik, a human administrator. "Better than expected," Young-sik replied. "The younger generation especially seems to have accepted the new reality. Many are actually grateful that the war ended without total destruction." They visited a school where young Velkari children were learning human history alongside their own. The lessons were balanced, showing both the crimes of the past and the possibility of redemption in the future. "Will they ever be allowed to govern themselves again?" Sunho asked. "Perhaps their great-grandchildren will earn that right," Young-sik said. "But it will take generations to prove they have learned from their ancestors' mistakes." It was a long road to redemption, but it was a road that existed. That was more mercy than the Velkari had shown to humanity. 50 years after the return war, Captain Sojin stood on the observation deck of a human monitoring station. Below, the former Velkari capital world had been transformed into a center of learning and culture. His grandson, Captain Minjae, joined him at the viewing window. "Do you ever regret how it ended?" Minjae asked. "Some say we were too harsh." Sojin considered the question carefully. "We gave them a choice they never gave our ancestors. They could surrender and live, or fight and die. Most chose to live. And now? Now they are learning to be better than they were. Their children will grow up knowing that aggression leads to consequences. Perhaps in time, they will become worthy of trust again." Minjae nodded. "The galaxy is peaceful now. No major wars in 50 years. Because everyone knows what happens." "To those who start wars," Sojin replied, "peace through superior firepower is still peace." They watched as ships from dozens of species arrived and departed from the spaceport below. Trade flourished under human protection. Science advanced as species shared knowledge freely. The galaxy was more prosperous than it had ever been. "Grandfather Hyunwoo would be proud," Minjae said.